Hello and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be unboxing the new Gen 2 Nicrew HyperReef 150. Now Nicrew sent this to me for free, but they didn't actually ask me to make this unboxing video, and I'm making it because I was quite impressed with the packaging and the contents, and I think it was more impressive than I was expecting it to be. But the main video, the review video I do on the main channel, will be a sponsored video, so kind of make of that what you will objectivity wise. So in this video then, I'll show you what you get in the box, give you a bit of a look around at the light itself, and I'll give you my first impressions. And the first thing to talk about is the box itself. Now I recently did an unboxing of a Jecod powerhead, and the box was a bit, the design wasn't fantastic. The box was all beaten up because it had come over halfway across the world, and it was just a little bit unimpressive. The box is not a very important part of the equipment, of course, but the Nicrew box is totally different. They don't sell these in shops as far as I'm aware, but if you saw this on a shop shelf, you would think it looks just as good as the likes of Ecotech, Red Sea and Kessel. It's a really smart box, and they've got the graphics of the actual light on the front, and just some minimalist writing on the bottom, and then on the back they've got all neatly set out. They've got the colour of the LEDs that you get and the number of LEDs you get. You've got the spectrum here, so this is what the spectrum will look like, or what they say the spectrum will look like, with all channels at 100%, and then just a few things that say what's included in the box. And it talks about Nicrew being a company based in Hong Kong. And all in all, it's just a really impressive box, and for a budget light, this just looks really smart. But as I say, the box doesn't really matter, so let's take a look inside and see what you get. So the first thing you get is a bit of paperwork. There is a data sheet here, which actually is really useful. I've had a quick look at this beforehand. It shows you the best lighting schedule for, as they see it, for LPS, SPS and softy tanks, and I roughly agree with what they say. It says that you can set the popular AB plus spectrum, which is a spectrum that you set on, most people set on Radion, so that's very impressive if it matches the same spectrum. It tells you what the photo period should be. They say 8 to 12 hours. I run my tank at 12 hours, and it tells you what PAR you should run on softies, LPS and SPS tanks, and I would broadly agree with all of those figures. So a really useful basic guide. So if you're setting up your first tank, you can probably pretty much rely on this and set up fairly easily. And then there are a couple of other things. There's the quick start guide that tells you how to get the light set up, which I will read when I come round to actually setting up the light. And there is a HyperReef mount system. Now the mount is included in the box with the light, and it shows some really cool things that you can do with the mount. The mount looks very similar to the Ecotech Radion mount, but it gives you, here we go, you can see there are 5 combinations of how you can mount it. There's the standard way, and there's the way that I'm going to be using, which is when your tank is flush up against the wall and you don't have space behind the tank for a big chunky mount to stick out the back. So some really useful tips in there on how to get the mount and the light set up. And I have to say, it all looks very professional and very much like a kind of a European or an American brand. Turning to the actual light then, and we can see what we get inside the box. First thing I'm going to pull out is the power supply, and it's a big old chunky power supply, which I'm going to disconnect from the plug. It is made by a firm called GVE. Now GVE is not one of the main brands like Meanwell, which is kind of the most recognized company, but I have tons of these power supplies lying around my house for various bits of lighting equipment, camera equipment and so on, and I've never had a problem with them, so it's nice to see a brand I recognize. The other cables you get are just the cable that attaches to the light itself, which we'll come on to later, and then a 3-pin to UK kettle fit plug that connects to the power supply and then will plug into your wall socket, of course. Onto the light itself then. So it comes in this little polythene kind of bag thing, which has got their branding on it, all very fancy, and the light itself looks very much like, and I'm just going to peel the satisfying peely off. That's nice. The light looks very much like an Ecotech Radion, to be completely honest. Very similar design. It's got the kind of the slightly separated top piece of gloss black acrylic, and then the plastic body, similar buttons on the top, and a similar kind of mounting system on the top as well. So they've made a fairly similar design. The first thing I noticed about the lens as well, so these are all the LEDs in there. You get different LEDs for depending on what unit of this you go for, but the first thing I noticed is that there's this kind of frosting on these LEDs, which I think is going to act as kind of a diffusing plate, so it should improve the spread and the blending of the spectrum on the LED, so this should be an improvement over the first generation of these lights. Now with most of the mainstream lights, that's pretty much the end of the unboxing, but with the Nicrew light, the second part of the box is the mounting bracket. Now, most of the bigger companies will charge you extra for this, but this comes with the light itself. It's all included. And as I say, there's loads of options of how you set this up in the manual. Mainly you can set it up so it's nice and high like this, or it's slightly lower. So if you want it sitting lower and not quite so high above your tank, you've got the option to do that. Or if you want to do what I'm going to do, yeah, you can have it nice and high like this, and it will be flush to the wall, so it won't stick out around the back. There's a couple of other bits as well that come with the mount. So obviously this is the L bracket that fixes to your tank. Then you've got this little box here, which the L bracket sits in, and then that also sits on your tank. And you can have this you can have this a few different ways, which means it will work on rimless tanks like mine, or if you've got a Euro brace. And the other piece of the mounting kit, the other main piece, well, let's see, there are two pieces. So there's this elongated bracket that goes on the top there, so it will mean that you can adjust how far across your tank the light goes. And then the second bit is, the final bit, is the bit that actually grips onto your light. And again, this is very similar to the Ecotech mounting bracket. So it's a really slick unit. This piece is plastic, but these two pieces, the main bars, are metal, and they feel really nice quality. Everything feels really nice quality, actually, surprisingly so, given this is a budget light. And the only other things you get in here are the bolts that you need to put it together and a couple of tools. Now, in terms of the unboxing, there's not much else to tell you, but the only other thing I noticed on the light is that you have these two little USB-C ports, which presumably are for connecting to the controller. And I have the controller, which I'll address in the main review. And I presume that you can also connect these lights to each other, so you can daisy chain them, which means you'll only need one controller for one tank. And if you don't need to use the USB sockets, they're actually normally covered up by these two little rubber grommets. So you can just pop those back in, and you won't get any salt creep, and you won't get any humid air going in there and rusting the internal parts. So what about my first impressions then? Well, I'm really impressed with this light. I love that it comes with a clever mounting system. I love the way it looks. I think it looks really classy, very slick. I love the frosting on the lenses, which should diffuse the lights, and the overall look is really smart. The plastic isn't quite as nice as some of the premium lights, the likes of Ecotech, Red Sea and Kettle, but to be honest, it's still pretty nice. And from a distance, you wouldn't even notice. And perhaps if I hadn't even told you that, you might not have noticed. It's still perfectly acceptable in terms of build quality, and I'm genuinely really impressed with this. I didn't expect it to feel so premium, I didn't expect it to come so well packaged, and I didn't expect it to come with so many features. I'm going to leave the unboxing there then, but if you've got any questions or if there's anything I've missed, let me know in the comment section below. I'll try to answer as many as I can, and I'll also try to cover as many of them as I can when I get to doing the main review. So make sure you like and subscribe this video and this channel, the Reef Talk Extra channel, and make sure you head over to the Reef Talk main channel, where I'll be uploading the full review of this in the next couple of weeks. So thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, happy reefing.